Hey, what is up everybody? Mr.Gsqrd here and welcome to this update video. This is the June 2019 balance updates for Command & Conquer Rivals. I have not read them myself. I'm going to go through this message that they sent out to us and read through them, go through it, kind of talk about my opinion on the updates, what I think is going on, more or less kind of why I think they're doing things, unless they may have added that themselves, in which case we won't have to talk about that at all. But let's get in here and start reading. So, message, balance update, June 5th. Commander, the June season has started, which we have not started yet, but we will be soon. Started, and we have new unit balance changes, and update Tiberium map pool and bug fixes. I'm supposed to say and, but whatever. Read below, get on the Discord, chat about it, whatever. Tiberium League map pool, open water, the needle, sandbar, twin pillars, 3 lanes, roar something or other, flooded plains, and tide pools. So there we go. Those are the new Tib League map pools for this season. Should be pretty sweet. I always like it when they change maps up. I get bored on the same maps all the time. Bug fixes. Fixed an issue where the Alliance donations didn't work correctly for Fanatics. Interesting. I didn't even know that because I don't think anybody in my Alliance uses those yet. Okay, so we're getting into the kind of the meat and potatoes of this, right? We are going to talk about the unit balances, updates, changes, whatever. We're going to start things off with GDI. GDI, APC. APC has been a fairly dominant force in the current meta. This changes to make it a little less than an immovable wall. So it's got its health decreased, fair enough, right? APC can take a beating from tons and tons of units, which is kind of the point of it, so maybe this is a little excessive, maybe decreasing at 200 hit points a little much, maybe 100 would have been a bit better, but you know what, we'll see what it does. It'll probably break a lot of the meta. I mean, I use the APC right now, I might still continue to use it, as players kind of tend to jump guns during these. It's real easy to kind of think of counters, and a lot of the time it's the unit that's getting dropped that's the counter to some of the strategies, so we'll see where that leads us. Okay, we get the disruptor. We heard your feedback in reducing reduce the disruptor's base damage. Okay, so there we go. That's kind of what I talked about in the last one of these update videos, which honestly that update video was not the best, right? I'm hoping this one's going to be a little bit better. We'll see where that goes. So the damage versus base has been decreased to 300. It was 400. I think that's awesome because with the Jackson buff and the disruptor, it's like kind of a 2-shot kill on a base at least at half health, right? So 4-shot kill, or even 1-shot, or drive another one over there, do another 1-shot. It's a little ridiculous. But yeah, that's long overdue, I think. The Disruptor has been way too strong against bases. The only real benefit to that is it's super difficult to get over there, right? Because you've got like Orcas, you've got Infernos, you've got like basically all vehicles. That will stop that from getting over there. So let's see what else we got here. The Drone Swarm. This makes drone swarms a bit easier to kill by units such as Rhino and Buggy. Health decreased to 175, was 200. Okay, so that's a bit of a nerf on the drone swarm, which I actually picked up from its last buff. I don't know if it's still got its damage increase, which is good from the last buff, but this health decrease is fairly substantial, right? That's 25 down. It's 25 hit points down. It's gonna eat a lot more damage from bikes, from buggies. Obviously, that was kind of the point for the buggy and the Rhino, but you've got like attack bikes, you've got pit bulls. They just rip them apart already, so it's just gonna make it all the easier for them to get destroyed by that. Perhaps they could have just slightly increased the Rhino and buggy damage to like air units. Maybe that would have been a better answer for this, and but you know, who knows? We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Let's talk about the Grenadiers now. Grenadiers aren't quite at the level we would like just yet. Instead of increasing their combat power, we will put a bit more emphasis on what makes them special. EMP speed decrease, attack speed decrease has been increased to 25%. That was 15%. What that means is when the Grenadiers attack the unit, it slows down that unit's attack speed, right? So what it was doing was Grenadier, let's just use the buggy for example. Grenadier throws a grenade at the buggy, it hits the buggy then has 15% less attack speed. Now it has 25% less attack speed. To follow that up, the movement speed decrease has been increased to 60%, and that was at 55. Same rules with that. That's awesome, because I'm going to be starting to use the Grenadiers here very soon. From my last, what was it, unranked video, if you want to go check that out, please feel free to. It's in the, it's on my channel. It's one of the, like, past 3 videos, at least at the time of this upload, right? So we've got, I have built a special kind of deck around the Grenadier unit, around infantry, and then around vehicle. So I'm hoping that is going to, this buff just helps tremendously. So we'll see how that deck actually goes in the real meta, or in the real ladder play. That I'm hoping to get some ladder play in here within the next few hours, actually. So I should have a couple videos to upload after this one. So make sure you guys stick around, go check those out too. Alright, Hammerhead. What is the Hammerhead doing? Hammerhead has fallen off in recent patches. We are giving it a quality of life change, as well as making it more accessible. Turn speed increased to 300. That is huge, because that has always been my issue with the Hammerhead. It is so slow to turn. That was at 150. The cost has been lowered to 90, which was 100. Also very fair, especially against the Phantom, right? The Phantoms peel the Hammerheads apart. Hammerheads are very, very strong. Don't get that mixed up, which I see that the attack has neither been buffed nor nerfed. That's because that's got a very fair damage output. It's got a really good damage output. It's not really affecting too much to leave that as is, but I think that these changes are quite fair, quite reasonable. Alright, Jump Jet Troopers. With the release of Grenadiers, we felt we felt that Jump Jets were losing their place. With just this change, we are providing a different space for them to belong. Damage reduced to 382, which was 400. The cost is decreased, which is huge, by 10 tib, which is pretty good. And the health is decreased. 200 was 240. That's interesting to me. I think that the Jump Jets, in all honesty, they haven't been meta for very long. They kind of go in, with like rush decks, which, in all honesty, this will put them back into rush decks, right? You can still use Jump Jets with the Grenadiers, it just oftentimes was pointless. So maybe this is a good change. I think that the damage reduction or the health reduction could have been left out, but put those together, it's pretty good. The cost decrease, definitely awesome. I have no idea if I'll be using Jump Jets again or not. Excuse me. We'll just have to wait and see. Definitely not in the build that I have right now, but maybe I can work them in somewhere. Kodiak. The Kodiak. This will allow the Kodiak to feel a bit less clunky by allowing it to fire its guns while it's moving. Now has Raider. Wow. Okay. That is a huge, huge buff to the Kodiak. I hate the Kodiak, right? Everybody knows I hate the Kodiak. I'm so bad with it myself, and I constantly get absolutely destroyed by it. So with this, the Hammerhead and Phantom will definitely be finding their way back into my deck. As you guys know, the Kodiak GDI tech unit, right, comes out of the tech center, costs a ton, has a ton of health, does a ton of damage, and now it has Raider. It's also a flying unit, right? So it can only attack ground, which is nice, but it does tremendous amount of damage to vehicles. It rips vehicles apart, and it'll destroy infantry too. It's not as good against infantry, but it's still really good against infantry, right? Like, they'll take missile squads out, no problem. It also has a 3-tile attack, the one directly in front of it, and the 2 to the right of it, or the 1 to the right and the 1 to the left of that. So giving this thing Raider is insane, right? That's I think the Kodiak is going to make its way back into the meta. A lot of players used to use it a while ago, but then it got a little nerf, took some health away from it, which I'm very glad is not getting re-added, because that would just be ridiculous. I wonder if this has the Raider like the Phantom and the Hammerhead have, though, where, you know, I'm sure that it does. I'm sure it's not like a Pitbull Raider, where if it's not in its attack tile, like, because the Pitbull can just, its gun turns and it just fires, right? That's kind of what it does. And same with the tanks, the Scorpion, the Predator, the Tick Tank. They all, you can just drive them and they'll shoot in any direction. The Kodiak, I'm going to assume, is going to operate like the Phantom and the Hammerhead, where while it's flying around, it's only going to shoot the tiles that it would be able to shoot at if it had, you know, stopped. So hopefully that's the case. If they just, you know, let it shoot wherever, that's wouldn't really make any sense anyway. But I think this is definitely going to bring the Kodiak back for sure. Let's just move on. This is I could probably talk for another 20 minutes on that, what's going to happen with that, but, well, at least my opinion on what's going to happen with that, I think that's ridiculous. Let's keep going. Mammoth Tank. Training issue against Avatar. Damage versus vehicles increased to 2130 was 2070. Anti-air attack delay reduced to 0 was 1 second. So that's pretty good. That's definitely a nice big buff for the Mammoth Tank. That's going to give it a lot more damage versus vehicles, obviously. It just runs right over infantry, so nobody cares about that. And then the anti-air attack delay being reduced is awesome. So it's going to attack faster. So you've got somebody spamming... granted, this is a little different scenario, but you've got somebody spamming Phantoms, and you can somehow get a Mammoth Tank out. You can get your Mammoth Tank out. It's going to shoot those Phantoms much quicker than it was previously, which is awesome, because the Mammoth Tank is not the best versus air by any means. It just is kind of meant to, like, you can shoot at it while you, like, try and escape and bring a Hammerhead out, or get some missile squads out, or even a slingshot, something like that. Bring out those other stronger anti-air units while you kind of draw your tank back and still get some damage dealt on those units for when your true anti-air units actually get there. Let's move on. MLRS. Returning power back to the MLRS now that alternatives such as the Mutant Marauder and Grenadiers exist. Reload time decreased to 5 was 6. That's huge. MLRS was very meta for a long time. It got nerfed, made the reload time take longer, and it was able to easily be taken out. Now that you've got these infantry units like this, they can just walk up and crush the thing, essentially. So they're like, yeah, we'll put it back, let it crush the vehicles. Who cares? You know, have an anti-vehicle unit is what they're thinking on that. Problem is, like, my Marauders are like level 8, right? They're super low. I just got my Grenadiers up to 10, which is the only reason I'm going to be bringing them back into my ladder play. So who knows what I don't know what I'm going to do with my Nod quite yet, but I'll figure it out after this, I'm sure. Mohawk Gunship, which has not seen much play, at least in my games recently. I haven't seen it in a long time in a ladder match. I know a lot of my Alliance members do like to use it, though. Turn the Mohawk up to solidify it as a GDI's consistent damage air unit against vehicles. Attack speed increased to 1.15 was 1.4. That's really huge. Now it has Raider? Are you kidding me? Why are they giving GDI units all this Raider? That's ridiculous. How can that... Okay, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna assume the same thing with the Raider. If it's on that, I think the gun sticks out of the right side, if I remember right. If that is the case, okay. I guess if you drive past a vehicle, it could probably shoot it. Yeah, that makes sense, that it would have Raider. But as far as RTS goes, talking strats, balancing units being truly quite balanced versus realism, it's hard to balance that, right, from a development side. So we'll see what that's gonna do. I might bring the Mohawk back now. In all honesty, I might ditch the Orca and bring the Mohawk out. That speed increase, the attack speed increase is huge. Raider is huge. Because I mean, it's got way more hit points than an Orca. Not an Orca bomber, but an Orca. It's got more hit points than that, and it's about the same speed, really. It's a little bit slower, but a lot more hit points, and it's cheaper. So you're getting a lot more firepower out because the attack speed is increased. Now it's got Raider, cheaper, decent speed. It's pretty slow, but you know, it's still an air unit, right? If you got somebody that doesn't have very good dedicated anti-air, you're gonna wreck it. So, okay. Big changes to the Mohawk Gunship. Check Sandstorm out. Fixed an issue where the Sandstorm was winning into certain infantry counters. That is big. Can now hover over lakes. Yes, that's so awesome. Because the Sandstorm was able to do that in, granted it was called like the hover something in Tib Sun when it got introduced, but it was able to do that in Tiberium Sun, so it's really cool that it can do that here now. That's awesome. Damage versus infantry decreased to 10 was 15. I think it should be decreased even further, but you know, that's just my opinion. It's definitely a step in the right direction with it, but you know, who knows? Maybe that is enough. I know they test all this stuff out with people before anything happens, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Shatter. It hovers. Can now hover over lakes. Okay, that's awesome. I didn't expect to see the Shatterer in here whatsoever because it's like, it's not even out yet, technically. I think you can get early access with it right now if you like buy a pack of it, but oh my gosh, that is so awesome. It can hover over lakes. That's cool, as it should, right? Alright, Slingshot. Slingshot will now be able to get into position faster. Increased speed from fast was average, can now hover over lakes. That's brilliant. So that's awesome, because I'm putting the Slingshot in that deck that I was designing as well. So at least I was planning on it. I might actually do it now because it's faster, which is good, because I thought it was way too slow, right? It was a slow vehicle. It was like the Infernos just drive up, you can't outrun them when you see them with it, like if that's your scout unit as well, which, in all honesty, like, let's be honest, right, it shouldn't be, but it was sometimes for me, because, you know, sometimes I play in a very bad way, but, yeah, we'll see. That's awesome. I really like those changes to the last few units. I think these are quite good changes to the Sandstorm, the Slingshot, and the Shatterer, right? Very good. Snipers. Increasing snipers' attack speed will allow them to take down Grenadiers and Mutant Marauders in a reasonable amount of time. Attack speed increased to 2.7 was 3.0. So, I don't know if I've mentioned this. When they say, you know, the attack speed of something has been increased, yet it's a lower number, that's a good thing, because that's the time in between attacks. Now that 2.7, that's a lot, right? It's definitely going to be bringing snipers back, I think. I could, in all honesty, I could see a true GDI infantry deck being amazing right now. Infantry, along with like maybe some air, maybe the Slingshot now that it's been buffed. Amazing, right? These infantry buffs are huge in GDI. They're massive. Like, the sniper will be able to take down flames way easy. Militia, way easy. Laser squads, way easy, because this attack speed is like, you get an even level sniper against a rifle squad, it takes down 3 to 4 of the rifle squad members, like, on its first volley, right? So they haven't even reached it yet, and they're at like 40 to 50% efficiency already before they even get there. So it's big. They might not even touch them at this point, running straight at a sniper squad. Which, realism-wise, they shouldn't. Gameplay-wise, maybe you should let them get there, because it's just such a hard counter like that is what kind of gets strategy games into trouble with unit balances, right? You build one unit, and the counter to counter something, and granted, that's what it's for, but it should be able to at least touch it and do a little bit of damage, right? Who knows what'll happen with this, though. Let's talk about the Titan now. The Titan has been a bit lackluster for several patches. We are brushing the dust off so that players can pull it out a little earlier. Cost decrease to 130 was 150. Fair change, right? Titan doesn't get much gameplay. It's a very, very strong unit though, right? The Tib cost was somewhat reasonable, right? It's kind of like me and Kane, right? I play Kane. I love playing Kane. A long time ago in the alpha, Kane was super OP, right? You could actually have like 2 obelisks out and they were like 110, 120 Tib each. Kane was just super great in the alpha of this game, but anyway, it's more off the point. But with the increased cost of the obelisk, a lot of players just completely ditched it. And now you can, it's kind of like the Titan. When its cost increased, a lot of players just ditched it. They're like, it's not worth it, it's too expensive. You can build 2 of a unit at relatively the same price and take it down. So that's when it's not really worth it anymore, right? You want to be able to get it to where its counter unit is going to kill it, and it will destroy cheaper, like, War Factory units, right? So, definitely a good change. I think that's a really good change. I think that's going to bring the Titan back. Get to see some more of it. Always fun. So, let's, while we're talking about that, let's talk about the War Dogs. A small bump, so War Dogs do a bit better into its infantry matchups. Damage versus infantry increased to 22 was 20. Definitely a good change. I'm pretty sure the cyber wheels do way more damage against infantry than the dog, which is just stupid, right? To be totally blunt, it's ridiculous, right? The cyber wheel and the war dog should be a 1-to-1 identical unit, right? That's what they're for. They should be a 3-level scout unit. They should have identical damage against infantry, identical damage against vehicle, and identical amount of hit points. Hopefully this puts it there. I think it will. I don't actually know what the last cyber wheel one was, but hopefully this makes them identical. That would be ideal, right? All right, moving on. Let's talk about Nod, my team, my group, the Nod group. The group that will destroy GDI and any other Nod factions that stands in the way. Right? Let's get into them now. Let's talk about Nod's artillery first. We are pleased to see that the artillery is finally seeing play. Less so at how dominant and independent it is. We are decreasing its damage and pushing it a bit more into a supporting role. Attack per second reduced to 3.6 was 3.2. Alright, fair enough. A lot of players have been doing this strat where they just go, like kind of cheap builds, like cheap War Factory, cheap infantry. They're Oxana, right? And they rush to tech, get the artillery, buff the artillery clears the board, and then they've got board dominance, and they just really have to worry about air at that point, or potentially some infantry maybe making it to them, but it's essentially air because those things crush infantry as well. No changing its damage, which is fair. The supporting role is what artillery is meant to do. So if this fixes the problem with artillery right now, that's perfect. Again, I still would like to see where it doesn't need to turn. I think that if you really reduce down the attacks per second to like maybe even 4 to 4.5 even, you could eliminate the turning. Because I think the turning is just stupid. I think it should be able to just attack like it could in Tiberium Sun. But, maybe it'll get there. Maybe it won't. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what that does for it. Hopefully it keeps it around. Hopefully it does a lot of good and nothing bad. Let's get into the attack bike, though. Fixing some training issues are making early attack bite rushing a little less potent. So, damage versus Harvester decreased to 200 was 244. Health reduced to 435 was 450. Damage versus vehicles increased to 244 was 240. Okay, that's fair. I think that they're going to do exactly what they want with that, which is making the rush less damaging, right? The only issue I can see with this is when you've got bikes versus pit bulls, right? Because the pit bulls do really well against bikes unless you're really specifically good with bike versus pit bull, which I'm not. I win, I don't know, half the time when I go bike versus pit bull. It's very hard to match that. With the health reduction, it's going to make it even harder. But with the damage increase to other vehicles, it's going to help a lot. That's 44 hit points, right? That could turn a potential 3 volley into 2 volley, which it should. So yeah, maybe it'll completely balance out and do exactly what they want. Make it a bit more balanced when it goes up against pit bulls. I know the attack bike does a lot of damage though. Like 3 attack bikes do a lot more damage than 1 pit bull will pump out. The issue is, you know, pit bull is constantly firing. It has more hit points. Now the bike has less hit points, but it's doing more damage. Fair, definitely looking at this. I think it'll be okay. Just have to experiment and find out. Alright, let's check out the avatar. Alright, had to take a breath there. Okay, the avatar flamethrower getting a bit of a bump to take on some of the new infantry that has been added recently. So basically the grenadiers and the marauders. Damage versus infantry. Infantry increased to 140, was 120. I don't know if I like that. Avatar is already pretty OP, in my opinion. I think that this is like giving it a little too much, I think. But you know what? Avatar is not really that meta right now. Not many people are using it. This might bring it back, which is good, right? The whole point of all these balance updates and fixes is to make the game. It's to make it fair. It's to make it fun. It's to make it so every unit has its place, right? And if making one unit a little bit overpowered against one particular other unit gives it that place, but it's still weak to other units, then it's kind of the give and take you have to make. Like let's look at, you know, a game like Warcraft 3, right? I mean, tons of people still play that, but the amount of effort and work that goes into balance updates and changes in that is astronomical, because you're not just talking 2 factions with 40 units in each. You're talking 4 factions with, like, I mean, granted it's probably more like 30, but how many units are in this game? There's like 25 on each faction now. So I mean, it should be very simple to design this, right? It should be. It's not. It's hard to do. I've built custom races before in Warcraft 3. I've had to plan out that balancing and counters for this race, but weak to this race, this unit to this unit, and, you know, adding stuff like that is difficult, right? So let's just hope these changes work. I don't particularly like that avatar change. I think the Marauders and the Grenadiers, the point of them is to weaken vehicles on the ground. That is a ground vehicle. Why would you give it an extra bump to take those guys out when that's their purpose, right? Granted, they're infantry, and it's a giant flamethrower in their face. Sure, realism, obvious. We're not talking realism, we're talking RTS, strategy, unit balances, and fixes, right? I think it's a little bit over the top, but, you know, we'll see. Maybe I'll run into a couple of avatars with some Grenadiers and be able to take them right out. Who knows? We'll find out. That being said, let's talk about the Cyber Wheel. We talked about the War Dog earlier. Let's see what this is. Cyber Wheels have been incredibly powerful for Nod. While we like its glass cannon design, we want it to be a bit harder to position and swarm control pads. So it's getting a speed reduction from fastest to faster. So it's still going to be pretty quick. It's not going to be as fast as it was. Just, you know, speaks back to what I was saying. I would like to see the Cyber Wheel and the War Dog identical. They're not. Apparently by this, by the looks of this and calling it a glass cannon, it's obviously doing a lot more damage output than those War Dogs are. So, you know, I don't personally like it. I think a lot of these units should be 1-to-1 against each other. But that's just what I think about those two particular units. We'll see what happens. I thought the Cyber Wheel was kind of in a good place. It's not over the top. It loses the fights that it should lose. It wins the fights that it should win. I understand the swarm mechanism of it, though. That's kind of what happened with the drone swarm when it first got released, was it just swarmed everything and won everything. But we'll see where it goes. I'll probably still use the Cyber Wheels for a good long time. Same with the attack bikes. We'll see what happens in the deck, see what changes need to be made, and, you know, adapt from there. But, with that being said, let's talk about the Inferno. Oh, Kane is on here. Two of my favorite stuff right here. This is great. Giving the Inferno back its old cost with the addition of so many meta-defining units. Cost decreased to 100, was 110. Awesome. Nice call by you devs right there. I'm glad to see that. I want my Inferno back out. I want it to be a 150 tib drop, not a 160 tib drop, because it doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. Like, it adds up so fast, which is what happened to the tank meta, right? When they increased Predators and Scorps to 70 from 60 so long ago. This should bring it back. It'll be nice. It'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. Let's talk about Kane. Lowering the cost of Kane slightly to make it a little more accessible. Cost decreased to 130, was 140. Goes what I was talking about earlier with Kane. That's awesome. So you've got an Inferno decrease, a Kane decrease. My Cyber Wheels are a little slower in my current deck. My bikes are going to do less damage to harvesters, more damage to vehicles, but not take as much damage, which is fine, right? They're motorcycles, kind of realistic, but you know, we'll see. I'm really excited about these last two though. Phantom. Lowering Phantom's costs alongside Hammerheads as well, and fixing a training issue. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the training issue was with the Phantom. Obviously, some bug somewhere that they've adjusted and corrected. Damage versus aircraft increased to 755, was 720. Cost reduced 100, was 110. That is awesome. So not only is the Phantom getting cheaper again, it's getting a buff, which is awesome to destroy that Kodiak. So that is I'm definitely going back to Phantom Inferno after this. So I don't know what I'm gonna drop though. I'll have to think about this one for sure. Anyway, let's get back to the piece at hand, and I'll do deck stuff on my own time. Let's talk about the Mutant Marauder. The beefy boys are a little less beefy. Also fix some training issues. Damage reduced to 382, was 400. Health decreased to 620, was 650. I forgot a parenthesis there at the end of that 650. Anyway, I found like 2 typos in this. This is ridiculous. I'm not a typo finder, and I found them. Anyway, that's fair. You know, the Marauders are just so over the top. They're a lot stronger than Grenadiers, and I'll give them that. The difference is, I think they deserve it because they don't do what the Grenadiers do. They don't have the EMP, which is what separates the Grenadiers from the Marauders. So the Marauders need something else to get them at that level, and that was their health and damage. So maybe this is a little much. Maybe shouldn't have cut quite that much. Maybe a little bit less. But you know what? Who knows? I don't play against many Marauders. And anytime I do, I just whip out a batch of flames and clear the field of them. So that's fine. It's really just going to help me in my play right now because I don't use Marauders. So that's great news for me. As far as the meta and the game itself goes, maybe that was a little bit excessive. Now let's talk about the Rockworm. Rockworm has been a bit lackluster. This change will make it more of a generalist against light infantry. Okay? Infantry damage increased to 180, was 90. So it doubled its damage against infantry. Which, yeah, it didn't do a terrible amount of damage. The Rockworm should only it's one of its only weaknesses should be air. Kind of like the Titan, right? It's kind of like the answer to the Titan is the Rockworm. So you've got your Titan doesn't take that much damage from infantry. Your Rockworm should deal out damage to infantry similar to what the Titan can do. Not quite 1-in-1, obviously, but it should do a fair amount. I'm glad to see that it's getting its buff. It deserves it, really. I really thought that the last update was going to bring them back. It really hasn't, and what I have seen has been pretty sad. Anyway, though, let's talk about the stealth tank. Stealth tank has been incredibly dominant for some time. We are decreasing its speed to make it a little easier to catch, and lowering its health to promote a high-risk, high-reward playstyle, which is essentially what the Orca is, right? It's the land Orca, as I continuously say over and over again. Its speed is decreased to faster, was fastest. Honestly, that's pretty fair. The only thing that I don't agree with is that pit bulls could catch them. Like, pit bulls could run them down. They're like, pit bulls are faster. I don't think I agree with this one full-heartedly. Maybe I'm a little bit prejudiced on the side of the stealth tank because I use them a lot. But the health reduction, fine. I think that that's pretty fair. The speed decrease, I'm not sure about because they take the damage, right? They try and drive out. If you're just gonna have the same, like a pit bull should not be able to outrun a stealth tank, and it's definitely gonna be able to now. So we're definitely gonna have to have an answer for that. Maybe it's Kane's Tower being cheaper. Maybe it's having Infernos on the field. Maybe it's your laser squads. I mean, Scorpion tank, Tick tank. There are answers for it. I just don't feel like it's the right call in the speed decrease. Health decrease, sure, why not, right? It's promote the high risk, high reward. That's cool, but I don't think the speed needed to be touched. But let's see what else we got. So we got the Venom. Oh, the Venom's the last thing. So let's talk about that and wrap this show up. So Venom. Spruce up for the Venom to counteract the addition of heavy infantry. Attack speed increased to 0.4 with 0.5. That's pretty big, right? The Venom, it's in and out. Like, some players use it, some players don't. It's pretty strong. Like, let's be honest, right? It's a pretty strong unit. Its only true weakness is that it can't hit air like the Talon can, but it does so much more damage against infantry than the Talon does. It does okay damage to vehicles. Obviously, it's going to lose really badly to the Pit Bull, but it has more hit points, right? So it takes out the missile squads. Missile squads take out the Talon. Talon obviously takes Venom out because it can't fight and defend itself. I think that's a good change, right? I think that could easily bring the Venom back as a good contender. Like, not Air is getting a big buff, GDI Air is getting a big buff. It's almost like you want to build air decks right now. Infantry and air where it's at right now, based on this message. But you know what, that's it. I've had a lot of opinions here. I've been talking for a long time, starting to get a little hoarse. I'm actually going to be taking a break right now. I'm going to be heading out. I hope you guys enjoyed this update video. I hope, some of what I've said, maybe has sunk in a little bit. Maybe you have different opinions. Maybe you agree full-heartedly with me, because let's face it, you probably should, because I'm always right. Anyway, that's not really the point, though. I really like making these. Like, these are fun. I like talking about this. I like looking at it, doing this deep dive, analyzing, peeling little thingies apart like this, and thinking about, wow, maybe that is a good change. Maybe it's not, why would you do that, developer? Come on, guy. I'm starting to ramble here. This outro is already terrible. It's already long enough. Thank you all very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Let me know your opinion in the comment below. Let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, why, and also why. I will talk to you all later, though. Bye-bye, everybody.